welcome everyone. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. My name is Hafsa Anjum and I work with the community team at Recro, wherein we are working towards building an exclusive community for developers to help you get connected with the like-minded people, build your network, and grow professionally. Those who don't know about Recro, it is a developer-focused platform helping developers to meet the right opportunity by connecting them with the fast-growing startups like CureFit, Udaan, Swiggy, and Dunzo, etc. So, again, good evening and welcome to Recro Talks. And today we are doing a Ask Me Anything session on JavaScript. And we have a speaker, Dhananjay Kumar, today. And a little bit about Dhananjay. Dhananjay is a published author, Microsoft MVP Google developer expert, and the founder of Geek 97. He organizes India's largest Angular conference called NG India. Currently, he teaches Angular and JavaScript to students all over the world. Thank you so much, Dhananjay, for joining us. And you can go ahead and say hi to the audience.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. And let us do it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you, Dhananjay, again. All right, let's get started. So, Dhananjay, let's start with the basic question of you. So let's start with your journey on JavaScript. When did you start and what have you been, your experiences are, and what are the things that got you to where you are today?
My name is Dhananjay Kumar, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. I have started my career back in 2008. And since then I have got opportunity to work on various technologies, primarily on cloud technologies like Azure and .NET technologies. But in 2017, I suppose I had to start working on JavaScript because JavaScript was picking up at that point of time due to release of ES5 and everywhere it was JavaScript. So I started working on JavaScript in 2017 and mainly JavaScript and Angular. So yeah, so pretty much JavaScript since then. My major technology, major framework which I teach, which I do consulting on is Angular. And to do Angular, I need to do JavaScript as well. So for last 4 years, I would say I'm trying to learn JavaScript. It is very big language and it's not easy language to understand and master, but yeah, I try to answer as many questions as possible today. So that's about me.
Great, Dhananjay. So I know that how difficult the JavaScript could be if it's not understood properly. And as we have the expert on our speaker side today, so I think our audience is going to have a lot of fun learning from your experience. So let's go to the questions right now. So what are the important concepts in JavaScript which we use in the projects on Angular basis that one must learn and get hands-on experience from?
Well, this is a very good question. So the way I look at JavaScript, I would divide JavaScript in 4 verticals. First is, of course, knowing the fundamental of language, such as how you can declare a variable and how you can have those basic operators working for you. And those are important, but not very important, to be honest, as far as I see. So first is like basic of language. I look at JavaScript in 4, I divide JavaScript in 4 vertical. One is like the language fundamentals, like getting variables and all. The second and one of the most important vertical, in my opinion, is functional JavaScript. Like JavaScript is object-oriented and functional at the same time. So how you create a function, what are the scoping? Like when you declare a variable, what is the scope of that variable? What is the value of this inside function, closures, higher order functions, and those kind of concepts. So functional JavaScript, someone should definitely master if they want to go into React framework, because React is very much, those React hooks are nothing but output of functions and scopings and closures. So if you want to get into React, you should master functional JavaScript. So there is one vertical, and functions, scopings, closures, value of this. or arrow functions, at least these 5 things inside functional JavaScript. The third vertical in JavaScript I look at is the object-oriented JavaScript, or mainly typical JavaScript, in that you should master how to create objects, how to create inheritance between them, what is prototype, what is proto, what is constructor, and those kind of things. So if you want to go into Angular side, you should really master it because Angular is completely object oriented. So this is something which you really need to master. So that is second vertical, object oriented JavaScript, and then a third vertical, and the fourth is, which is kind of very confusing and people should master, is asynchronous JavaScript. Like JavaScript is single threaded. So when you work with JavaScript, when you make an API call, or when you do something which is long running, how that is going to affect your execution. And for that, you have promises, generators, and iterators, which are first-class citizen of JavaScript. So one should understand promises for sure. But if you're going to Angular from JavaScript, then even if you do not understand promises that much, that is okay. But you really need to understand then RxJS. And when I say RxJS, means reactive JavaScript, and things like observable and subjects and operators and Markov diagram, etc. Keep in mind that observable and all these are not first-class citizen of JavaScript. So they are not part of JavaScript language per se. Besides that, if you can memorize all the methods of array object, which are very handy. How to use reduce, how to use map, how to use filter, how to use find index, how to use find, and those kind of things. If you know, then your productivity in the project should be good. So these are the things, in my opinion, one should do in JavaScript.
Great, Dhananjay. That was very insightful information. I guess a lot of our audience will, learn a lot from what you explained and how the differences are. So let's go to another question, shall we? So what are some of the most misunderstood concepts of JavaScript according to you? And can you explain them? So the different misunderstood concepts of JavaScript.
So right now you want me to only tell the name, right? What are the
anything would be fine if you have any more explanation.
Okay. Yeah, so like the way JavaScript works is it is a single threaded, and the way we declare variable and the way we declare to start with, like any programming language, first thing what you do is that you declare a variable. And the way we declare variable and there is scoping in JavaScript is, I find when I meet students, when I even meet professionals who are having a rich experience, they struggle there. Like, okay, what is the lifespan of the variable which we have declared? Many people are still confused between var, let, and const per se. So scoping, and the other thing is that how to know value of this inside JavaScript, which does matter when you go and start debugging something, to know that what is the current object you are working on, and many people struggle with that. Then closures, I really don't feel that closures are very overrated. In my opinion, because most of the time you're not using closure in your real project, but you don't have any choice but to use object and current object in your project. So these are the concepts, and then of course asynchronous JavaScript promises and all are something which is complex. So as I said, that people should start learning scoping, functions, and then prototypes, and then constructors, and then go to the promises. Everything is confusing in JavaScript if you don't know.
Yes, it's actually confusing if you don't have a right information. That's right. Yeah. So let's go another question that we have, and that is, this is something that we got most people asked for. So can you please explain this keyword purpose, usage, and variations in different cases?
This THI is this, right?
Yeah. Yes, THI is.
Okay, I was just like, in my last two answers, I use this word THIS a lot, and this question come up. But to explain that, I'll have to share my screen, because it would not be justice with the concept if I don't show the code. Talking is cheap, show me the code, as they say, right? All right, so the question is, what is the value of this? Like how we can calculate value of this inside JavaScript? Now, in any programming language, value of this is this represents the current object, the object you are working with. Now, JavaScript is a language which does not have object, or everything is an object. The way you, I mean, it depends how you want to look into that. But in JavaScript, the current object, every function has an object, and that object is represented by this. What I mean by that, so let's say that if you create a function here called foo, when you create this function, inside this function, if you go and say console.log this, so this function has a value of this. Now, in other programming languages such as C# or Java, this actually represents this represents current object. Now you may have a question that, hey, you are creating a function here and you are printing the value of this. Then which current object this is representing? And that is a whole story. So I'll give you 4 formulas for that how you can calculate that value of this inside a JavaScript function. So here you see that I have created a function foo, and then I'm trying to print value this inside that. Your learning number 1 is that every function has this object. Every function has its own this object. All right. Does not matter how you create a function. Besides one type of function which became part of JavaScript in ES5. So I would come to that, and that is called arrow functions. So arrow functions does not have its own this object, but every other function has its own this object. Now here, this function foo has a this object. Now what is the value of this inside this function? Now if you look at my screen, no one can in this world say that what is the value, what is the output of line number 6. And you know why? Because value of this inside a function does not depend on how you have created that function. It depends on how you are calling that function. I repeat, value of this inside a function does not depend on how you have created that function. It depends on how you have called that function. Now, if you look at my screen, so far, I have not shown you the code that how I'm calling that function. And since you don't have access to, you don't know how this function foo is being called, you just cannot say what would be the value of this inside foo, or what would be the value of, what would be the output of line number 6. So in JavaScript, you can call a function in 4 ways. And JavaScript allows us to call function in 4 ways only because there are 4 possible values of this. A function can have 4 possible values of this. So calling functions in 4 different ways is also known as invocation patterns. So if this word you might have come across JavaScript invocation patterns, that is just a fancy word to describe how you are calling a function. All right. So now look at here. I'll go here and call this function foo. When I call this function foo like this, line number 9, I'm calling that function as a function. All right. I'm calling that function as a function. It sounds a little bit, not that pleasing to your ear, but yeah, calling a function as a function. So when I call a function as a function, that is called function invocation pattern. So what you see here is that function invocation pattern. When you call a function as a function, that is called function invocation pattern. And in that case, when we are calling a function as a function, value of this is the global object. All right. Global object, if you are running JavaScript in browser, then global object is window object. If you are running JavaScript in Node.js, right now I'm running JavaScript in Node.js, then global object is Node.js global object. So right now when I run this, here you see that what you get here some global object, because I'm calling that function as a function. So here I'll just make a note for you that FIP means function invocation pattern. When you call a function as a function, then the value of this is global object. Make sense? So when you are running JavaScript inside browser, global object would be Windows object. Right now I'm running JavaScript on Node.js. So global object is that global object of Node.js. Now I can go here and call this function differently. So that is your formula number 1. Calling a function as a function, function invocation pattern, value of this is global object. Now I can go ahead and call very same function a little differently. I can call this function as var a equal to new food. So when I call a function using new, that is called constructor invocation pattern. All right. So when you call a function using the new operator, the same function foo would behave differently. And in that case, when you call a function as constructor using the new, then the value of this inside the function would be newly created object. So right now, if you go ahead and run this, here you see that you are getting output or an empty object. What happened that when you call that function using new, JavaScript created a new object and then assigned that new object to this to the value of this inside that function. So when you call a function as CIP, which is constructor invocation pattern, value of this is newly created object. All right. So two formulas so far. If you're calling with new, then the value of this is newly created object. If you're calling it as a function invocation pattern, then the value of this is the global object. Now here I'll show you something very interesting. When you call a function as function, make sure that you have tested it in a good way. I'll give you a very, very good example here. Let's say that I go here and I say that dot console equal to, let's say, undefined. Now see that what I have done here in line number 11, I'm adding a property to the current object. JavaScript allows you to add properties at the runtime. Other programming languages, you cannot add a property at the runtime. But here, I'm adding a property called console at the runtime to the current object. Now, I go here and run this as a constructor, as a constructor invocation pattern. Everything is fine here. I run that as a constructor invocation pattern. So here you see that you have one property called console added to newly created object, and value of that is undefined. So far, so good, nothing fancy. It's okay. You may have a question that why you would have a property named console, but let's say that we have that. Now, please focus here. I'll go here and let us say by mistake calling the same function as a function using function invocation pattern. So the current object is the global object. Now I'm overriding in global object the property console, and I'm setting that value to undefined. So when I call this, JavaScript is giving me error. JavaScript is telling me that, hey, it does not know what is console.log because you have overridden the default console of JavaScript by mistake. Now for this expression context, the value for console is undefined, and of course I cannot do undefined.log. So these little things you need to keep in mind, and if you really understand, let us say this bug is in front of you, my friend. You are trying to fix this bug, and you're one day gone on Stack Overflow copying and pasting that, hey, why my console.log is telling me that cannot read properties of undefined. But if you really know that the invocation patterns and value of this, you can very easily come and see that, hey, let me see that how this function foo is called. And as soon as you see this code, you would realize that, oh, this is the mistake I'm doing. I have called that function as a function, it's the function invocation pattern, and I have overridden the console. So there are various ways you can fix that. You can here check whether this function is called using new or not. You can put it there on my blog or on my videos or on my LinkedIn. So I hope you are able to get the message of what I'm trying to give you. Okay, so coming back to, we never want this.console equal to undefined. So now it's started working. So again, coming back to, there are 4 ways a function can be called. And JavaScript has given us 4 ways of calling a function only to find out value of this inside a function. Since a function can be called in 4 ways, there are 4 possible values of this inside a function. First, if you're calling that function as a function, it's function invocation pattern, then value of this is global object. If you're calling that function as a constructor, then value of this is newly created object. Now the third is, let's say that here I have one object. So let's say that I'm creating an object called dog, and dog has name. Dog name is, let's say, ABC, and then dog has is, and then dog has a function called display. All right, and here you say console.log this. Now, if you look at this function display, this display function is not hanging outside. This is part of an object. So when a function is part of an object, we call it as a method. All right, so when a function is part of an object, we call it as a method. Now, if you call this function display, you can only call with dog. All right, so here, let's say that if you try to do that display, of course, JavaScript will complain about that. It will tell you that, hey, I don't know what is display, because display is part of that object. Display is part of that object dog. So when you run this, it would give you error. It will tell you that, hey, I don't know what is display. So you can call this function display only by dog.display. So when you call a function as a method, this is called method invocation pattern. So this is called method invocation pattern. And in method invocation pattern, always the value of this is going to be the object which is before the dot. So here, object before dot is dog. So the value of this inside display would be that dog object. So here you run this and you see that dog object is the value of this inside that. So in method invocation pattern, the value, the object, all right. Now let's say that I have one more. Let's say that I have here one more object. So let's say that I have one more object here called var animal. All right, and var animal has, let's say that animal has a friend, and that friend is XYG. Now, if I try to call this display using this animal, and I told you that the value of this inside a method is the object before the dot, I would get an error because JavaScript would tell me that, hey, it doesn't know that animal has anything called display. Keep that thought in mind. Now let's go and revise that once again what we have covered. Function invocation pattern, global object. Constructor invocation pattern, newly created object. Method invocation pattern, object before the dot. Now take 5 seconds here and try to observe what we have done. Try to dot subscribe what we have done. FIP, CIP, and MIP. In all these three invocation patterns, as a developer, we are not able to control value of this. Value of this is given to us by JavaScript. We are not able to control that. If it is function invocation pattern, the value of this is going to be global object, boom. If it is constructor invocation pattern, then value of this is going to be newly created object, boom. If it is a method invocation pattern, then value of this is going to be the object which is before dot. Boom. We are not able to pass, or we are not able to manually control as a developer value of this. What if my manager is telling me that, hey, I want the value of this inside display object animal. So you have a requirement that the inside display, this should be animal, not dog. So you try to do animal.display and you got the error. Or let us say inside this function foo, you want here value that animal should be the object, not newly created object, not global object. How do you do that? If you go here and again do animal.foo, I'm sure JavaScript would complain about that, right? If I do again animal.foo here, and JavaScript is not happy about that. So what should I do? And here comes your fourth way of calling a function. That is called indirect invocation pattern. Indirect invocation pattern allows you to pass value of this manually inside a function. So here, if you inside in the indirect invocation pattern, IIT, indirect invocation pattern, you do that using call, apply, or bind. These are the three methods which is used to call these are the three JavaScript methods we use to call a function indirectly or call indirect invocation pattern. So here I'll say call, apply, and bind. And here value of this can be passed manual. So here inside function foo, I want value of this animal. Inside display, I want value of this animal. So what I do, I'll just go and say, hey, display, that is dog.display dot, either I can use apply or call, both are exactly same. If you use apply, then the parameter which you would pass to display should be in an array. If you use call, then the parameter which you would pass there should be in an should be comma separated. So here I'll say animal.call or apply, both are exactly same. And here the first parameter which you pass would represent the value of this. So I would say animal. I would say animal. And here I am calling it indirectly. You see, I'm calling display using apply or animal using call. I'm calling it indirectly and passing value of this here animal. So now when I run this, oh dear Lord, when I run this animal dot, it should be foo.call. Okay, so here now if I run it, you see that friend xyz and friend xyz is the value of this inside this method and inside this function foo. So once again, it was a long answer, but to summarize, value of this, every JavaScript function has this object. Arrow function does not have. So here, arrow function does not have its own this object. So whatever I have covered so far is not true for arrow functions. Arrow function became part in, I guess, S6. All right. So every function has this object. Every function has this object. It does not depend on, how function was created. It depends on how function is called. That is also called invocation patterns in JavaScript. And these are the four invocation patterns: FIP, CIP, MIP, and IIP. FIP, function invocation pattern, value of this is global object. CIP, constructor invocation pattern, value of this is newly created object. MIP, method invocation pattern, value of this is the object before dot. And IIP, indirect invocation pattern, where you use call, apply, and bind. And value of this is always the object which you pass as the first parameter. And this is pretty much, doesn't matter how complex is the code, just go and see how that function is called, and then you can easily find out that what could be the possible value of this if you remember these four formulas. Yeah, so it was a long answer of a question, but I hope it was useful. I'm a strong believer of talking is cheap, show me the code. So I wanted to show you the code instead of just saying something.
Thank you, Dhananjay. That was a very elaborated and very informative answer. And I guess even the audience in our chat are saying the same, that they are enjoying and how informative the answers are. So thank you once again. So let's move to the next question. So another concept that people are really, looking forward to learn is the prototype in JavaScript. Could you please explain it, how the prototype works in JavaScript and how we could actually get a hands-on experience and the main important stuff in that?
Prototypes in JavaScript?
Yes. Yeah.
Your audience is asking very tough questions. Prototypes in JavaScript. But glad whoever asked that. This is one of the very important and core concept of JavaScript. So how should we start? I'm going to comment this. So to start with, everyone, again, leave arrow function aside, but all other functions. Every function in JavaScript has a prototype object. Now, what does it mean? Just keep that line number 48 noted down, and we would come back to that again. Every function in JavaScript has a prototype object. We would come to that. What is the use of prototype object and why we need that? We would come to that in a bit. But to understand prototype object, first you need to understand objects in JavaScript. Now, JavaScript and number 4, I guess they are best friend of each other. Like I told you that a function can be created in 4 ways and a function can be called in 4 ways, and 4 ways of calling a function to determine what would be the value of this inside JavaScript. So you have already learned that, we have already mastered that. Now in JavaScript, an object can also be created in 4 ways. You can create an object in 4 ways. All right, you can create an object like this. Let's say that I want to create, and you have already seen that, like how we created dog. So that object, when you create an object, let's say here I create an object like this. So when you create an object like this is called object literal. So this is the first way of creating an object. Second way of creating an object is that I can go and say var b equal to object dot create, and then I can pass a and then extra parameter, whatever is extra properties, whatever is required. So in line number 54, I'm creating an object b from object a, and here we need to, like, the lingo which should be used there is very confusing. So for example, I just use the term that I'm creating an object b from a. From is an English word. Now, what does it exactly mean? That when I say B is created from A, whether A is parent of B, or B is going to copy all the properties of A, whether it's going to be deep copy, whether it's going to be shallow copy, and those kind of discussion could come here when I say that B is created from A. In other programming languages, you don't create an object from another object. So thing is very clear and straightforward there. In C# or in Java, as best of my knowledge, I'm not an expert of Java, so but for sure in C#, you do not create an object from another object. You create object from a class. If you go to our MCA or engineering or masters, the first thing they taught us is that object is instance of a class. That's the definition we have been learning. And to create an object, we need to have a class. Class is a prototype of object and all those things. But all those learnings which we have done in our engineering or MCA or anywhere else is becoming invalid here, because JavaScript allows us to create an object from another object. Now again, JavaScript allows us to create an object from another object. This is what FROM has different connotations, it has different meanings, right? When I say from, and once again for your benefit, that whether A is parent of B, B is child of A, or B is going to copy everything from A. If it is going to copy, then it is going to do shallow copy, deep copy. So that from word, when I say that B is created from A, is kind of ambiguous, right? We really do not know what does it mean. So at the end of next 10 minutes, I would come back and replace that from word with some other word. So keep that in mind, and I'm going to write this here, that B is created from A. And that from is something which we need to master, that word from here. All right. We will come back to that in a bit. So these are the 2 ways. I told you there are 4 ways a function can, an object can be created in JavaScript. One is using object literal, line number 52 to line number 54. Another is using object.create. It became part of JavaScript in, I guess, ES5. When you create an object from another object. And the third is using class. There's a class in ES6. You have a class, and that is not a real class of like other programming languages, but you have a class and you can create object out of that starting ES6. So these are the 3 ways of creating an object in JavaScript. What we are going to focus is the 4th way of creating a function, creating an object. The 4th way of creating an object is also called constructor invocation pattern, which we have already seen in previous discussion as well. So constructor invocation pattern allows you to create an object as well. So let's say that here if I have a function product, and I take this function product here, and let's say it has title and price. By the way, it's all live coding. I'm not, no code is already there. And I'm sure all of you love live coding. There's a lot of discussion on Twitter, live coding. I don't know why that, if you are a coder and presenting, you should do live coding. Why there's another discussion there, right? But anyway, so function product title price, and here I'll say this dot title equal to title, and this dot price equal to price. Now you have already mastered it. There's no point of guessing that. I go and call this as var p1 equal to product, var p1 equal to new product, and then I can pass, let's say, 10 and 30, and I'll create one more object where p2 equal to new product, and here I pass and say that it's a 35. So here, using the constructed invocation pattern, I'm getting two objects, p1 and p2, from function product. And let me do console.log p1 and console.log p2. With me here, and here you see that you have product title, pin, and price. Now looking at this code, the code which is in front of you, if you look at that code, if you observe that code very carefully, what goes to your mind? If I'm new to JavaScript and look at that code, the first thing which would come to my mind is that P1 and P2 is created from product. It's as simple as that, right? That would come to our mind. There's no rocket science there. Like anyone who can read a bit, they would say that, hey, this P1 and this product has some relationship. This P2 and this product has some relationship. So I'm calling a function using new, means constructed invocation pattern. And when I do constructed invocation pattern, this the value of this is a newly created object. And inside that newly created object, I'm assigning two properties, title and price. And almost 90% JavaScript developer knows it. They do it on the daily basis. And they think that P1 and P2 is constructed from product. They think that P1 and P2 is created from product. Okay. Now go to the beginning here. When I was telling you, I told you that somewhere I wrote something, B is created from A. Okay, let us make that statement a little bit general. In JavaScript, an object is created from another object. Here I'm asking you to trust me. Here I'm asking you to that, hey, trust me what I'm telling you, that in JavaScript, an object is created from another object. Let us assume that is true. All of you people trust me. I'm telling you that JavaScript, an object is created from another object. You trust me that, but when you come and look at this code, you would come back and argue with me that my statement is wrong. Because clearly here P1 and P2 is not created from an object. P1 and P2 is created from a function. And here I'm telling you that, hey, JavaScript, an object is created from another object. I'm telling you that. But here if I look at this code, it is clearly one of these two are wrong. Either the statement what I told you here, in JavaScript, an object is created from another object is wrong, or there is something going inside this code, which our eye is not able to see. We're not able to view that with the naked eye. Because to make this statement true, that in JavaScript, every object is created from another object, there should be something else inside this function, inside this code, which I have highlighted. Because by looking at that code, it looks like that we are creating P1 and P2 from function product. All right. So here, let us take a step back. I'm going to come in this. All right. I don't have anything now, just a function product. I'm not calling it doing nothing. And here I'll say console.log product. So as soon as you create a function in JavaScript, Again, not arrow function. Arrow function has entirely different characteristics. Other functions. So when you create a function in JavaScript, as soon as you created that function, JavaScript does not know whether you are going to use that function as a function, calling that as a function invocation pattern, or you are going to use that function to create an object by calling that function as a constructor invocation pattern. But as soon as you create a function, JavaScript assigns a prototype object to that function. So every JavaScript function has a prototype object with that. And here what I'm going to do, let me draw that diagram. So let me know when you can see my screen. Let me share my whole screen for a while. Okay, so here can you see one diagram there? Like one node, I'm trying to draw something.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, so let us draw the code which we have just written, okay? So this is the code which we have written so far. Line number 64 to 69. I'm trying to convert that to a diagram, and please be with me if you really want to understand prototype. It is the most complex part of JavaScript. What I'm going to do, I'm going to draw the function as a circle, and I'm going to draw objects as a rectangle or a square. All right, so here is my thing, and I'm going here, and let me go and draw one circle here, and this is your function foo, right? So I draw here, I have drawn one function foo. Right. And now you have seen, if you look at this code, that every function has a prototype object. Can you see that? Every function has a prototype object. So can I go ahead and draw here one object? I'm drawing object as a rectangle, and there's a relationship between these two. So here, if I say prototype, and here is your function foo. All right, so this is the foo has a prototype object. Keep in mind that object doesn't have any name. It's just foo and prototype. All right, now I'm going to uncomment this code. So I have created P1 and P2. So let's go here and draw P1 and P2. So here you have one P1 and here you have one P2. Keep in mind both of them are an object. So I'm drawing them as an rectangle. So here you have P1, here you have P2, and both has title, which is pen here, and price, which is 30 here. In the same way, P2 has a title, which is pencil here, and price, which is 35 here. By looking at this code, you can say that P1 and P2 are connected to product. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'll say this P1 is created from this P2, from that foo, and this P2 is created from that foo. All right, so here, so far, we have this diagram. And you'll forget everything, but you'll never forget this diagram. And if you never forget this diagram, you would be never confused in your life with prototype. Okay, so here I am, P1 and P2. So far this. Now in the beginning, what I told you, here I told you that in JavaScript, an object is created from another object. So here you see that product.prototype is an object. So with your permission, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to tell you that, hey, in reality, even if it looks like that P1 and P2 is created from foo, they are not created from foo. They are created from the prototype of foo. All right, they are created from the prototype of foo. All right, keep that in mind. Now let's come back to the code again. Now, whatever I have told you will go on a toss. If I go here and say console.log p1.constructor, Then let me again say console.log p2.constructor. You know the constructor is a function which constructs something. I just told you by looking at this diagram that, hey, trust me, this p1 and p2 is created from here, but is not created from here. I just told you that. All right. So of course you would come back to me and tell me that, okay, if that is the case, can you print p1.constructor and p2.constructor? So here I'm printing that p1.constructor and p2.constructor. If I'm printing that, that goes to function product and function product, which means what I told you that these are linked to them is some kind of is not holding true. Never mind. Let's go here and come back here. Constructor. If I need to go from P1 to foo, I can go through the constructor. If I have to go from P2 to foo, I can go by the constructor. All right. So far our diagram is this. So far so good. Now something will blow your mind, and look at the screen here. How complex and confusing is this if you don't go through the diagram here? Okay, we understood p1.constructor is function, p2.constructor is function product has a prototype. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say that hey, product.prototype.constructor, because prototype is an object, so there must be some constructor of prototype.constructor as well. And if you look at here, oh my God. Can you notice here that even that prototype is created from the function foo itself? Now, some of us argue that this is a bug in JavaScript which they never fixed. You can have your own opinion on that, whether it's a bug or not. So here, can you see here that now you can see that p1.constructor is same as p2.constructor is same as p1.prototype.constructor. So if I give this code to you and tell you that, hey, what would be the value of console.log p1.constructor equal to product dot prototype dot constructor, what it is going to print. If you don't know that diagram and you want to answer this, it may confuse you, but now you know that the value will be true. In the same way, p2.constructor would be true. So far if you have understood this diagram, then let us go one step up. And what I'm going to do here, in one step up, here in the function prototype, I'll say product.prototype and then add a value there, let us say color equal to red. So I added a property in the product.prototype. So here let's come here and we'll say color equal to red. Okay. Now I'm going to prove you that how they are related to each other. Let me come in that. Now here, if I come and say console.log p1.color, we're getting red here. If you look at the diagram here, p1 does not have its own color. If p1 does not have its own color, then how it is printing you red? It is going here. It means it is proven that they both are linked to each other. This and this green rectangle and this blue rectangle are linked to each other. So when you try to do p1.color, it doesn't have it here, and it goes to its prototype, and that's called prototype chain. In the same way, if you do here console.log p2.color and print that, you see that you have p1.color and p2.color as red. So here in the diagram, you can see both are linked to that. So when you create an object in constructor invocation pattern, the object is actually created from the prototype of the function. And the correct word is they are linked to the prototype, not from. They are linked to the prototype. So if I want to go here, how I can go? I can go from p1.constructor.prototype.color. So if I come here and say console.log p1.constructor.p1 p1.constructor dot prototype dot color. Now you know that p1.constructor.prototype.color is exactly the same as p1.color, right? If you look at this diagram here, p1.constructor foo.prototype color red, p1.color. So before 2012, I guess, we used to go to the prototype chain by this, but then Mozilla opened it, and Mozilla opened a property. Every object has an internal property called capital prototype, and that property hold the object from where that object is linked. So if you want to directly go from here to p1 to there, such that you don't go through p1.constructor to prototype, you have here capital P prototype. Okay, so if you say p1 dot capital P prototype inside two bracket, that would go to foo.prototype. All right, but this prototype is not exposed. So what they have given you, something called underscore prototype. So here, every function has a prototype object, and every object has a underscore property. Now, if you look at the code, and here if you say console.log p1.proto is equal to p2.proto, you should have the same answer. True. You can say p1.proto is actually equal to foo.prototype, and you know they are the same thing. We'll have the same answer. Foo.prototype, just a minute. And here p1.proto is equal to foo.prototype. And what is the mistake I have done? Oh, sorry, we don't have anything foo, product.prototype. So here you see that again you are getting the true. So now this diagram is very important for you. And this is called prototype chain. So when you say that p1.color, it would go to the prototype. And here if I go and let us say change something, I say that proto.color equal to green. What I have done, I have modified that prototype. So here if I say console.log p2.color, now the value should be green. All right. So this you have to keep in mind that how proto works. So if you have to create inheritance between two objects, if you have an object here where a equal to, and that a has name foo, and then you have another object called where b equal to, let's say that has color red. Now you want to create inheritance between a and b. Pretty simple, you can say b dot proto equal to a. That's it. So prototype is a very complex topic, and it requires a lot of time, but I hope it was useful so far. And to know more about it, you can ping me on LinkedIn or Twitter, or maybe you can reach out to Rasmi and the team, and we can do a detailed prototype session. Yeah. No. So this is what. And it is not complete. It's just like 30% of prototype I explained you. It is prototypal inheritance is something which is tough. But yeah, I hope it was useful.
That was indeed useful, Dhananjay. Thank you so much. And I'll be dropping Dhananjay's link for the social platforms in the chat, and you guys can connect with him personally and ask the following questions on the prototype and the JavaScript. So let's move to another question. I guess we had a lot of discussion around these two topics. So Dhananjay, can you explain how closure and scoping works on JavaScript?
If we again write code, it would take 15 minutes. So should I? So I'll take a closure is again a very complex topic. But I'll do, so 5 minutes will not do justice with that topic, but I'll give just basic introduction. Okay? Okay, everyone? So again, prototype closure is again a very complex topic, and we need to master that. But for people who don't know closure, I'll just give you a very small introduction of that in 5 minutes. So what happens? JavaScript has a scoping. There are four, again, in JavaScript, everything is of four types. So there are four types of scoping again: global scoping, functional scoping, statement level scoping, and lexical scoping. Okay, so the four scoping are global scoping, functional scoping, then statement level scoping or block scoping. Someone call it a statement, someone calls it block, that your lit and const. And then you have lexical scoping. Now this lexical scoping and Clojure are like, you need to understand lexical scoping to understand Clojure. All right. So I'm not going to detail of scoping right now. Maybe we can do later. And here I'm assuming that you know a little bit of scoping. So what JavaScript does, let's say that I have one function add here, and this function add has num1. Now JavaScript can have a nested function. So in JavaScript, you can have a function inside another function. Okay. So let's say that I have another function called add intern. Intern, not that intern. Okay, so add intern, and this has num2. All right, so you see that I have a function add, and inside that I have another function add intern. So keep that in mind. And JavaScript allows you to have internal functions, and JavaScript allows you to return a function from another function. So here I can say return add intern. All right. So see the code here. I have a function add, which has internal function add intern, and then I'm returning a function from add function. So here Clojure comes to the action. Clojure is just a concept. There's no code of that. And please be with me. Now what happens that here, let us say you have something called var sum, and here you are saying by default the sum is 90. Then here we are saying sum equal to 90 plus num1, which you have passed there. And then inside this add intern, you are saying sum equal to sum plus num2. Instead of 90, I'll keep 100 so that we don't get confused with the mathematics at least. So where sum 100, where sum 100 plus num1, and then we have add intern num2. So look at here. What Clojure says, and please listen to me very carefully. Clojure says that it remembers the context in which a function was created. So what is lexical scoping? Lexical scoping says that anything which you have declared in the outer function can be accessed inside internal function. So this num1 and sum, which is declared in outer function add, can be accessed inside add intern function. So that is a kind of lexical scoping very roughly. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, second thing is that to return this function, add intern, JavaScript has to create that function, right? Agree, everyone? To return that function, JavaScript has to create that function. So what Clojure says that at the time of creation, whatever was the values in the environment. So here environment is function add. JavaScript remembers that. So let us say at 5:04 you called this function add. So to return add intern, JavaScript has to create that function add intern, and that time value of sum was 1000. So JavaScript will remember that value sum equal to 1000. Now at 5 or 10, you are again calling that function add, and that time the value of sum is 5000. So JavaScript remember 5000 for the second time. So that's what Clojure is. That's it. That it remembers the values in the environment when the internal function was created. It's very roughly. It is much more than that. So here, if I go and say add. So to add, let's say that I'm passing 10. Nothing happened. Now this add returns you a function, right? And that function is add intern. So you can again go and call this like this. So here, let us say I'm calling it 5. And here I'm saying var a equal to add 10 5. So So console.log A. Then again, go ahead and say var b equal to add, and this time you are saying 25, and then you are again passing it as say 5. So here, if you look at here, when JavaScript is working for A, for the add num1 is 10, for the add num1 is 10, and the sum is 100, so the value of sum is 110 for A. Say for the B, value of sum is 125. So for A, when it works with add intern, it will return you 150. For B, it will return you 130. So it remembers the context. That is what JavaScript is. Oh dear Lord, what is log? Why it is undefined what I'm doing? Return add intern. I guess this should be. No. Oh, yeah, I'm missing the syntax. We'll come to that. So here you see that I'm saying var A add 10. That is a function. Oh, it is telling me undefined to do this. Stupid me. I'm sorry for that. So 150, 130, right? So here you see that when you call for the A, the value was 110. It remembered that, and again you are able to get 115. In the same way for B, the value of sum was 125. It remembers that. So roughly this is closure in JavaScript. And if you are going to work on React, you should really master closure. I'm not master of React. I don't know React that much. In fact, I don't know anything in React. But I guess their React hooks are very much around this.
I guess we're just left for 2 more questions, and then we can, go with the questions that are shared live in the questions tab. So we'll just quickly go through, and thank you guys for being so engaging and cooperating with us. And people are actually finding your explanations so useful, and they are just commenting how thankful they are and how much they're enjoying your conversation. So let's go for another question. It's about the proxy and observables. So please help the audience understand the appropriate use cases for the proxy and observables.
So in JavaScript, there's something called proxy object. So let's say that, and again, proxy and observable are not related to each other. This question should have been promises and observable. But let me explain you proxy also, and then promises and observable, all three. So in JavaScript, there's something called proxy object, and proxy object allows you to do meta programming in JavaScript. What I mean by that is that, let's say that if you create an object here, let's say create an object A here, and this object has a property called name. Now, by default, this name is public in nature. Like, you can go and access that. This is public. This is and this is writable. You can make it read only by making writable to false. So if you want to, here you can go and say A equal to 9. JavaScript allows you to do that. Because by default, that is writable true. If you want to make it read only, you can do that by setting is writable to false. But let us say if you want to make this name as a private property, or let's say that it has one more property called price, and you want that whenever someone tries to whenever someone tries to set the value of price to, let's say, less than 0, then instead of setting that, you want to run a business logic and send an error and all. In that scenario, you use proxy object. Proxy object is part of JavaScript, and proxy object runs some meta coding against a write and read of the properties on an object. So that's proxy object. Today we don't have time to go into detail of that. So that's proxy object. After this, maybe I have a video on my channel, Geek97. You can subscribe to that, and there's a video of proxy object there. And I'll share a link of my blog also at the end. So that is proxy object. Many people don't know it, but very powerful, and I guess you should know it about that. And the use case of proxy object is creating a private variables, running a business logic when you are trying to assign something, and those kind of thing to an object property. So that is proxy. Now coming to promises. Now promises are, so let's say that, and I'm going to answer your promises and observable together. All right, and it's not the real syntax, but it is a kind of pseudocode, but that should help you to understand that. So let's say that if I have an object, that object is called dog, and it has one property called isNone. So let us consider this dog as the source, okay, or it is the source right now, and we're consuming that dog. So we are consuming that dog as var a equal to dog.age. Here you are consuming that dog.age. So a is a consumer. So if you do here console.log a, so a is a consumer and dog is source, this would get the value, whatever value is there. Anyway, we are not getting into the syntax right now. Just try to understand that. So where a dog.a is console.log a. All right. So that's the source. Here is the consumer. Now what happens is that another consumer dog.is, and if you say console.log b, you should be able to get again 9. Now here in front of you, and please be with me with the nomenclature. Dog is a source, a is a consumer, and b is a consumer. B is another consumer. Now here, if you look at the consumer a and b, A and B, the consumers are responsible to pull the information from the dog. So you are doing dog.age. You are pulling the information from the dog. You are doing dog.age for B. You are pulling the information from dog. So the consumer is pulling the information and getting the information from the source. Now let us assume that right here, now dog.age has become 99. So the state of the source has changed. The value of age is now 99. And after that, B has become consumer. So B would have 99. Pretty good. But if I do console.log A, the consumer A is not aware that the state of source has changed. And still it has the old value, which is 9 here. So to get the updated state of the source, it is the responsibility of consumer to pull the information. If a state or information inside source is changing, source is not responsible to notifying to the consumers that, hey, something has changed in me. Unless and until consumer does not again pull the information, consumer wouldn't have the updated information. And this is the normal way of programming. This is called pull approach of programming, where responsibilities lies with the consumer to pull the information. So here, to pull information again, it has to again pull the information dog.age, and then only it would have the latest information about the source. So if the state or information of source is changing, it is not notifying to the consumer. And this way of coding is called pull approach of coding, where the responsibility of pulling the information lies with the consumer. Now, there are two disadvantages of this approach. Disadvantage number one is that if a consumer is not pulling information, let us say at 5 dog age has changed to 99 and A is pulling information at 5:50, then for 10 minutes, A has wrong data. Second problem is that if A is pulling information too frequently, like at 5:5, 5:6, 5:7, and dog state is not changed, so unnecessarily there is a load. You are pulling the information, but you are getting the same information from the source. So this way of coding is called pull approach of coding. And most of the time we do coding like this. We pull the information in the consumer. Now let us reverse this thinking a little bit. Just a little bit. And let us assume that this dog is a special type of dog. It's a special type of dog. All right. Now, this source, this special type of dog, is capable to push information to the consumers. So now whenever something changes inside dog, it is created in such a way that if something would change inside dog, means if age would change from 9 to 99, dog is a special type of object. So it will notify all its consumers that, hey, something has changed in me. Do you want to do something on that? Dog is a special type of dog, would never bother whether A or B doing something of that change notification or not, but it will notify whenever the value change from 9 to 99, 99 to 900. So when you have this special type of object where source is pushing the information to the consumer, that is called push approach of coding. So earlier we talked about pull approach. Now it's a push approach. In the push approach, responsibility is with the source to push the information. So the source is pushing the information. Consumer is not pulling the information. So this is called push programming, or this is also called reactive programming. And this kind of reactive programming you can do in any language. In JavaScript, when you do it using RxJS, reactive JavaScript. So we talked about pull approach. And then there is another called push approach. All right. So you have pull approach and push approach. Let us say in the pull approach, when you pull single information, a consumer pulls single information. If a consumer pulls single information, so you remember the functions, those function returns only one value. Agree? So when consumer returns single information, in the pull approach, for that we use function. Okay, if consumer is pulling more than one information at a time, multiple information, and for that we use generators. Okay, in the same way, if your object is of type, a special type of object which is pushing the information to the consumer, but it will push only single information, not multiple information. Means if this dog is a special type of object where the age is changing from 9 to 99, 99 to 100, 100 to 110, it will not notify A or B each time. It will only notify when the final change to age has been done. So when you create an object like that, which would push only final information or an error, that type of object in push approach is called promises. And in the push approach, if you create a special type of object which will notify you for every changes, like 9 to 99, 99 to 100, 100 to 110, that type of object is called observables. All right. So the counterpart of promise in pull approach is function. Counterpart of observable in pull approach is generators. JavaScript has generators now. So promises are a special type of object which push you information whenever they have that. So when you go on internet, people talk it future value and all that, and I find them really confusing words. It's simple. It is a special type of object. Whenever they would have some value, it would notify me. But promises would notify me only once with the final value, or it would notify me with the error if there's some error in calculating that value. However, observables, which is part of RxJS, not JavaScript 8, would notify me for the each changes. All right. So this has roughly promises and observables. We can go on, but I hope it helped you in clarifying the fundamental of those things. Don't get into that definitions, asynchronous, this and that. Those are complex. Just keep this table in mind, and it will help you to learn better.
Yeah, that was indeed a really good answer about how proxy and observables work. So I guess we just have one last question and then we can dive into the audience poll. So this is mostly a controversial question, and let's see how it turns out to be. So can you explain the difference between the TypeScript and JavaScript? So do you think TypeScript will overtake JavaScript anytime soon?
I mean, as a teacher, I refrain answering these questions. And I think I'm not qualified enough to talk talk these things. And also, if I answer them very honestly, Microsoft can remove me from MVP, Google can take away Google Developer Expert Award. So, so in public, I don't say I don't have any opinion on that, but this question is a valid question, in my opinion. TypeScript is nothing without JavaScript. The day when your browser would directly start understanding .ts, then only this question is valid. Right now, browser does not understand TypeScript. So it does not matter how powerful is TypeScript, that has to be transpiled to JavaScript. So you have created a plane in TypeScript, but if that plane cannot be converted to JavaScript, it means that plane cannot run in browser. There is no use of that plane anywhere. So right now these two are companion to each other instead of competing against each other. Why TypeScript is popular? Because for two things, because JavaScript is tough and people have tough time using it. It's a free flow language. JavaScript is like a racing car. It is not going to give you a signal before the accident. TypeScript gives you the signal before the accident. So people like that, those strongly typed and all. But keep in mind, TypeScript exists due to JavaScript as of now. Future we don't know. But since TypeScript is coming from Microsoft, in future it would never happen that browser would say, Mozilla would say, or Safari would say, oh, okay, now TypeScript would only run. JavaScript is a universal language, not TypeScript. Sorry if some TypeScript fan out there.
So I guess we are done with the questions from our end, and now I guess we can dive into the Q&A tab and see what the audience have to ask for you.
Ankit Sharma is asking, what is higher function and pure function? So see, higher function and pure function, I mean, they are general definition. Higher function is a function which takes a function as input. Those are higher function. And pure function is a function which, so there's a function. If you pass same parameter, does not matter in which environment you are running, it should return you the same output. If you have created a function such that is called pure function. In pure function are those functions which value depends on outside environment as well. So that's pure function and that's higher order function. Akans Lokhandi is asking how to deep clone object and its prototype in JS without using Lodash or some other level. Yeah, deep cloning is tough, but why you really want to do that? One is that object.create method could help you, which is the best book for JavaScript. This book is best book for JavaScript. You don't know JavaScript, you should definitely read it. I have learned a lot from this book. There are 6 such books, so get it. This book is free on GitHub to read as well. All right. But I'm going to take my skills to someone who what should we buy. See, that is a very good question, Sadanand Pai. If you know the basic concepts of JavaScript and everything, then start. Let us say go to React, go to Angular. Angular is written in TypeScript. React is still written in JavaScript. So open those open source project and try to read the code, how they have written that code. So you'll be able to understand, and then it will help you to understanding everything. So for example, if you know JavaScript, you think that, okay, if I have to implement two-way data binding, every framework has two-way data binding, right? Sadanand, if you have to implement two-way data binding, how would you implement that in JavaScript? Try to implement that one functionality. Let us say that every application has routing, every framework has routing. Think if you have to implement routing, how do you implement that? And those kind of things.
Well, that brings us to the end of this wonderful session. Thank you again, guys, for being so cooperative and engaging throughout the session. And I would like to thank each one of you for joining us. Hope you learned something new from today's session, and we will look forward to your post on LinkedIn along with your key learnings. And don't forget to tag Recro and Dhananjay on your post. Also, thank you so much, Dhananjay, for joining us. It was awesome having you. Thank you for taking your time and sharing such insightful information and your experiences of JavaScript and all your professional journey.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.
And before we end the session, here are the few announcements that I would like to share with you. So we have created a community for developers called Recro Tech Circle, wherein you can connect with your fellow developers, get career opportunities, and ask for help. The link to join the community will be, sent in the chat after this. So do join and say hi to everyone over there. And then we have, if you have more questions, then follow and connect with Dhananjay on LinkedIn. So I'll drop his social handles in the chat. So you can hit him a follow and connect with him, DM him, and he would love to reach out to you personally and have your question answered and connect with you. If you're exploring career opportunities, Recro is hiring passionate developers out there. So you can check Recro's page and you can find something for yourself in the career opportunities. So you can just go and check and see, and maybe for your friend who is looking out for some opportunities out there. To stay updated with such events, follow us on social media, follow the Recro page and the Recro Talks on social media, and we will keep updating you with such more insightful events and bring you great speakers like Dhananjay and more, and get to discuss on the various topics, and we'll be happy that you're learning something and taking something out of the session. So that's all for this session, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you in all the future sessions. And thank you, Dhananjay, once again. That was a great session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Bye, guys. Yeah, stay safe. Happy weekend.